Mom said it's my turn to play with the tier.
New artwork for Ganon has been recently revealed, along with Sidon, Riju, and Tulin. These being completely different than the ones that were shown just a few days ago. But what I do want to discuss though is Ganons Tear and how he got it. Since from what we can speculate of these tiers is that they seem to be acting like the medallions that the sages were given in Ocarina of Time. Having Link collect each one, and instead of keeping them for himself, he retrieves it for the character representing a sage in order for them to help aid him in saving Hyrule this time around. Yet if these tiers are meant for the new champions who are somewhat the equivalent of the sages of Hyrule, why would Ganondorf have one? He isn't a sage nor a champion of Hyrule. Hell, they'd be using the other tiers they collected against him. So why would he be given one if they are meant for the protectors of Hyrule? Especially with the possibility of there only being 7, as assumed by the tapestry. And on top of that, if each tier actually does represent the champion it's meant for, why would Ganon have the red one and not Yunobo? But before I get into it, I want to take a closer look at this new artwork of him, as we can see that his tier isn't red anymore, but almost colorless. There is a speck of gold in the center of it, but that's about it. Yet in the other artwork of him and in the trailer, it was red. So it sure raises a lot of questions, like could all the tiers be void of color at first, until they are worn, which causes them to change their color reflecting their wearer? Or am I just thinking too much into it and this artwork of him just didn't include that detail? As red was definitely the color I imagined Yunobo's tier to be, similar to how each of the champion descendants are shown with a tier that reflects the color of the champion abilities from Breath of the Wild. With Sidon's tier blue like Mipha's Grace, Tulin's green like Rivali's Gale, Riju's orange like Urbosa's Fury, and of course that would make Yunobo's red like Daruk's Protection. While we've seen a glimpse of a character wielding Daruk's Boulder Breaker, which must have been held by a Goron, most likely Yunobo, running with the other 3 champion descendants at the end of the trailer. And if this was Yunobo, for some reason Nintendo doesn't want to reveal him to us. Could it be because he got a new redesign that Nintendo doesn't want to spoil until the game is released? We definitely know a few years have passed since Breath of the Wild by just looking at how Tulin has aged. So maybe Yunobo has as well, with him getting the biggest glow up which Nintendo wants to save for when playing the actual game. Especially when in Breath of the Wild, he was the biggest coward out of all the other characters who helped you reach a divine beast. So this could be where he changes into a badass now, which reflects his new design. While I would love to see that for our boy, there may be another reason why we haven't seen him yet. This of course going back to the theory I discussed before, with how Ganondorf may have stolen Yunobo's tier. Since again, we see the other 3 champion descendants all hold a tier of their own, so most likely Yunobo should have been given one as well. But being the only one absent throughout the entire trailer, except to be teased in a clip where you have to pause to even notice him, along with the lack of official artwork for him when there has been for the rest, there must be a reason Nintendo is choosing not to show him to us. And again, on top of the fact that we see Ganondorf with the red tier, which would presumably fit Yunobo as well, there must be some deeper meaning behind all of this. Because unlike Tiba, who also wasn't shown, but is being replaced by his son, there is no Goron equivalent that we've seen for the 4th champion in Tears of the Kingdom. So something wrong must have happened, and maybe to the Gorons as a whole. So what if Ganondorf has attacked the Gorons and managed to take Yunobo's tier? This could explain also why we see malice erupting throughout Death Mountain, as we don't see any other malice like that except coming throughout Hyrule Castle, which we know Ganon took control of. So what if early on he paid a visit to Death Mountain and took that red tier for himself, resulting in permanently scarring Yunobo, changing his looks, and that could be why Nintendo hasn't shown him off yet not to raise any speculations or spoil it until the game's release. Or, and this is a bit more extreme, but what if Ganondorf outright killed Yunobo and he was replaced by a completely different Goron? And because of that, we only see some Goron holding the Boulder Breaker, but we don't know which Goron that is. Though honestly, that seems unlikely though, especially if they already replaced Hibo with his son, it being Tulin. And having 2 of the 4 previous champion descendants swapped out would just feel off. But again, if Ganondorf managed to intercept Yunobo and take his tier, this would help explain why out of all the areas throughout Hyrule, Death Mountain is the only place corrupt by malice that we see in Tears of the Kingdom. And we haven't seen any other landmark in Hyrule outside of the castle be covered in malice like that. So Ganon must have left his mark there. With that idea in mind, it may also help explain the scene where we see Link facing a Goron in the trailer, as he dodges that Goron's attack while we see more of them showing up in a cave that looks somewhere near Death Mountain. This could be the malice corrupting the Gorons, making them turn on Link until Link is able to free them from Ganondorf's control. And maybe this even happened to Yunobo, giving him a completely new redesign and having Link face him to free him from Ganondorf's curse. Overall, while this theory may seem a bit far-fetched, especially with how it may bring in balance to the other 4 champion descendants, giving one of them way more plot than the other 3, this is still worth speculating, as Nintendo is already giving us a reason to assume that because of how they are excluding one of the 4 champions from not only the trailer, but the promotional artwork as well. So there must be a deeper meaning behind all of this, especially if Nintendo is choosing to go out of their way and exclude one of the 4 champions from its promotional material. And if there was any champion descendant who really deserved more story from Breath of the Wild, it would be Yunobo, as he was the least competent one throughout Breath of the Wild's descendants, and honestly was in real need of some kind of arc to turn him into the next Goron hero, rather than the cowering child we know him for. So what if he did have to endure one last major hardship that changed him for the better, making him now deserve to be called a Goron hero? Especially with how Link is going to team up with each one individually throughout Tears of the Kingdom, as that would be a much better way to bring him back into this game. Because if we had to once again team up with him like we did in Breath of the Wild with him being such a coward, it would kind of suck. As we see Link with both Sidon and Tulin facing off fearsome enemies. And all we've seen Yunobo do throughout Breath of the Wild is cower in fear when Link would face enemies. So if Nintendo wants him to be ready for the job this time around, they would have to give him some backstory that had happened to him, making him a warrior today. So hopefully we'll get a Chad Goron warrior this time around, after he overcomes his fear and changes for the better. Of course, this is all just speculation, but it's still really fun to do while we still have the chance, and I'd love to hear your guys' theories in the comments below. So please let me know what you guys think, and don't forget to leave a like for more Tears of the Kingdom updates and theories until the game drops. And of course, don't forget to subscribe not to miss out on any of it, along with the full-on Let's Play when the game does come out. But anyways, as always, thank you all so much for watching. I've been ZM, and I'll see you all in the next one.